Hare Krishna, very dear devotees, welcome back once again to our ongoing series on the glories of our most beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Vishesha Shunyavadi Pastracha Deshatarane. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So we are continuing with our mini-series entitled Stimulation for Ecstatic Love, and this will be part 31. Now, last week we discussed, as you remember, Krishna's clothes, so I thought it only natural that this week we discuss Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radharani's clothes, her dresses and her ornaments. Srila Prabhupada makes it very clear in Teachings of Queen Kunti, chapter 18, how Radharani's clothes can be a stimulus for ecstatic love. He writes as follows there. The entire Bhagavatam is glorification of Krishna, and this is glorification by Shukadeva Goswami. He says that one can be perfectly purified if one either glorifies Krishna, meditates upon him, or simply sits before the deity of Krishna and sees him thinking, how nicely dressed is Krishna, how nicely dressed is Radharani. So like that. But as Sri Krishna's pleasure potency, Ladini Shakti, Sri Radha has the ability to attract or control Krishna. Therefore, the Acharyas note that her dressing is actually even more attractive than Krishna's dressing. The famous Brajabasi poet, Paramananda Das, he describes this very nicely in one of his poems. I really like this. He writes, Lalita says to Krishna, O Krishna, our queen, Sri Radha, wears a gold-embedded chadar, whereas you only wear a black woolen chadar filled with dust from cows. Our Radha adorns her head with a diamond-studded crown of victory, whereas you tie a turban of torn cloth. Our queen wears necklaces of countless gemstones which sparkle like different shades of the moon, whereas you, Krishna, simply wear a simple forest flower garland that has no scent. Our queen wears dresses and skirts of opulence, whereas you dress in a cloth of poverty. She holds a stick of royal power, whereas you hold a simple bamboo flute. O Krishna, peacocks dance on her nose rings, whereas you have only one feather on your head. The queen of Braj is Radha, where the son of Nanda is her servant for many lifetimes. Lalita said like that. So we thank the poet. So it's for these reasons, actually, that Srila Prabhupada once instructed our ISKCON Pujaris to dress Srimati Radharani more beautifully than Krishna, actually. How do we know? Well, when recounting her memories of Srila Prabhupada, my god-sister, Tungabhadra Devidasi, she said that in Bombay in 1972, when Srila Prabhupada visited our temple there, he walked in and he paid his obeisances to the deities. He stood up and he smiled very broadly. Then he turned to her and he said to Tungabhadra, thank you very much. Make thousands of outfits like this and always make Radharani more beautiful than Krishna. That's an important instruction. Make thousands of outfits like this, but always make Radharani more beautiful than Krishna. Then he concluded, then Krishna will never leave. Hare Krishna. So, to begin with, in Vrindavan, Radha and Krishna's dresses and outfits are generally quite simple, as opposed to the opulence of Dwarka. Sri Jiva Goswami writes in Yugalastika, verse 7, Nilambhara Dhara Radha. It means Sri Radha wears a simple bluish cloth. That's from Jiva Goswami. we know the simplicity of their dress and brooch. Nilam Bharat Dhara Radha. Sri Radha wears a simple bluish cloth. However, I found Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in Navadvip Dham Mahatmya 215 that she can also wear multicolored clothes as well. He writes, Tratra Sri Radhika Devi Vichitrambhara Bhushana. Sri Radhika is often dressed with multicolored clothes. So simple, but sometimes more opulent. Now, I was looking for an example of opulent dress for Srimati Radharani, and that we find during her coronation ceremony in Vrindavan, where she was dressed by her maidservants in the Vrindavan forest because they wanted to declare her the queen of Vrindavan, so that they had a whole coronation ceremony. And this ceremony is described by Srila Jiva Goswami in his Madhava Mohotsava. So therein he says that after the Abhishek, the bathing ceremony of Sri Radha to make her queen, her maidservants dressed her in an opulent dress, befitting a queen. And then he writes that, so as not to disappoint them, Sri Radha invested her full potency in the dress. As such, the embroidered swans immediately came to life and cooed in concert with the tinkling of her ankle bells. Jiva Goswami. So then he writes, Sri Radha accepted a very beautiful, opulent, delicate sash for her waist. And he mentions that it was scented with perfumes like sandalwood and musk and oud, etc. And as a result, he writes, like her complexion, the sash gave off a soft reddish glow that actually revealed her heart's feelings and radiated her love for Krishna. Wow. So then the gopis profusely decorated Sri Radha with flower ornaments, and with that she appeared like a floral goddess of Braj, making the nearby trees shudder in bliss. And the next part of the ceremony entailed Sri Radha's being clothed in a second royal dress. And at that moment, the gopi Sanjana stepped forward and began braiding and decorating Sri Radha's hair. And when she had finished Radha's long braid, Jiva describes, it resembled a black vine decorated with tiny flowers, a variety of gems, and Krishna's bee-like mind. Then she placed a peacock feather at the end of the braid, and she asked her assistant is Chaya, the gopi Chaya, to add scented oils, tiny garlands of delicate flowers, and sindoor in the rest of Radharani's hair. Then Chaya finished by placing a number of dazzling jewels in Sri Radhika's hair, making her hair appear like a star-filled sky. I like that one. A star-filled sky. You see this all in your mind's eye, and it acts as a stimulus, doesn't it? For attracting us to the divine couple. So then another gopi began painting patterns on Srimati Radharani's face, like budding creepers on her forehead, it's described, flowering creepers on her cheeks, and a bumblebee-like spot of kasturi on her chin. Then another gopi came forward, and she drew a line of kajal around Sri Radha's eyes. She hung a pearl on the tip of her nose and put sparkling jewels on her ears. So then yet another gopi was about to redden Sri Radha's lips when she noticed how rosy Radha's smile already was. So thinking that lipstick would only hide the natural beauty of Sri Radha's lips, she put down her brush. All this is revealed by Srila Jiva Goswami. So then the same girl fastened a silk band engraved with Krishna's name on it around Sri Radha's neck, and valuable rings on all of her 10 fingers. So I was reading one Acharya, he writes, "To what can Sri Radha's fully ornamented beauty be compared? A golden vine, fully blossomed, Mount Sumeru, glistening in the sunshine? Hardly." He writes, "Her indescribable glory can only be compared to itself." Her indescribable glory can only be compared to itself. Srimati Radharani ki. So in this way, we can appreciate that Sri Radha dresses in ornate ways in Braja, of course, all for the pleasure of Krishna. Now, the following list is the different styles of outfits which sometimes adorn Sri Radha's transcendental form. And this part is so beautiful and so relishable. You're going to love it. When I read this in the Shastra, I was like, wow, devotees are going to love this. So listen to the different types of dresses that Sri Radha wears occasionally in Braj. There's the Gulab Jhoda. It's a dress she wears made from rose petals. Then there's Nij Raji Vesh, an outfit of pearls and shells. Then Ambhari Ghata. It's a dress of sky blue color. Then there's Amrashi Pariya, green leaf-colored blouses with mango-colored skirts. Then there's Bhaijani Gata. It's an eggplant-colored dress. Then Pirozi Gata. She wears sometimes Pirozi Gata. It's a turquoise-colored dress. Then Pushpa Valari Vesh. Pushpa Valari Vesh. It's an outfit which is embroidered with vines of flowers. Then there's Chitta Kari Vesh. It's a hand-painted dress. Her Sakis, they make her dress, and it's hand-painted on the textile. Then there's Kamal Chitkari Vesh. It's another hand-painted outfit, but with lotuses painted all over the dress. Then what else? Popati Dui Rangi Gata. Popati Dui Rangi Gata. It's a dress which has the color of a parrot with red and pink ruby embroidery. Red and pink ruby embroidery. I'm hoping that some of the listeners they make outfits for their temple deities, so you can get some ideas here. Then Patangi Gata. Sometimes she wears a very bright pink dress. Then Saprangi Gata. It's a dress of 7 colors. Then there was Indradyumna Gata. It's an outfit that looks like rainbow, with rainbow outfit. Then Mayuri Vesha. It's an outfit made completely with peacock feathers. I saw in one temple in ISKCON one time an outfit like that made with peacock feathers. So that's Mayuri Vesh. Then Shamagata, a dress which has the color of a dark monsoon cloud. And I read that's one of her favorites because it's the color of her Krishna. Then there's Chandni Gata. It's a silver dress. Then she also wears Keshariya Chandan Gata. It's a dress dyed with saffron and sandalwood paste. Then Arshi Gata. It's an outfit embedded with silver mirrors. So the poet Paramananda, he says in one of his poems in Braj Bhasa, Sab Braj ko Shringar Pragatyo. Sab Braj ko Shringar Pragatyo. It means, look, my dear friend, the full opulence of Vrindavan has arrived. From head to toe, all beauty of past, present, and future has manifested in the personality of Sri Radha. From the divine womb of Mother Kirti, Sri Radha, who is the treasurer of all types of beauty, has appeared in the beautiful land of Braj. Hare Krishna. So, while researching and reading about these different dresses, it was mentioned that some of them were narrow, while other dresses or skirts were quite wide. And this just took my memory. It reminded me that of an instruction that Srila Prabhupada gave when he visited our Paris temple in France in 1974. So during that visit, the pujaris had been dressing, Radha and Krishna in simple clothes that we'd purchased in India, and as such, the skirts were kind of falling flat around Radha and Krishna, their skirts, their transcendental forms. So one day when Prabhupada took darshan, he saw this, how the skirts just kind of fell flat like that. So he told the pujaris that the skirts had to be much wider. He said, you should put some sticks underneath the deity's skirts to open them up and make them wider. So I was standing there, I was thinking, wow, Prabhupada's, he's the one who's training us in the worship of Radha and Krishna in their forms as the deities. So he knows these things. And he said they have to be wider. So he said, just put some sticks in there. I found that very interesting. And then he said another thing, which actually surprised us all. He stood there and he said, smiling, French girls are the most beautiful in the world. So Krishna has come to France to find his French gopi, Srimati Radharani. Yeah, but skirts should be wide. You put some sticks in there, pujaris, or some other means. Now, in Vrindavan pastimes, in Vrindavan Leela, Sudevi, Saki, is Saj Shamharini Shaki. Saj Shamharini Shaki. It means that she's the attendant of Srimati Radharani who takes care of her wardrobe. It's one of her sevas. And everything in Sri Radha's wardrobe is recorded in the royal court accounts of Maharaj Vishwabhanu. Her ornaments, numbering exactly 64, Shringar 64, are kept in a special box called Saj Shamhar. Saj Shamhar. And the person, the gopi, in charge of that box is Vishaka Saki. And one of the specific duties of all these attendants, maidservants of Srimati Radharani, is to count this jewelry before decorating Sri Radha with them, and then count all the ornaments again when taking them off of her. Everything's accounted for. I thought that was interesting. And Sri Radha's sakis, astasakis, they also arrange for the making of all of Sri Radha's dresses and outfits. And one quote, it said that these outfits are so beautiful to behold that four-faced Brahma and five-faced Shiva becomes stunned when seeing her clothes. And they say, Chitra Vichitra Vesh. These clothes of Sri Radha are inconceivable and beyond the comprehension of our minds. Hare Krishna. Now, the Vrindavan poet, Sri Kalyana Rai, he writes, her clothes are so royal that the wives of the king of the demigods, Lord Indra, they become jealous and give up any hope of attaining such garments. Of course, they're in the material world still, devatas with all due respect. So how can they have these transcendental garments that adorn the transcendental form of Srimati Radharani and Krishna? In fact, Radharani's clothes are so magical and mystical that even Krishna once chose to wear them in a Keli Leela, in a playful pastime. In Nectar Devotion, chapter 42, I think it's entitled Fraternal Loving Affairs, Srila Prabhupada writes, he refers to this. He writes, Krishna once dressed himself up exactly like Srimati Radharani, just to create some fun amongst his friends. He put on golden earrings, and because he was blackish, he smeared the pulp of kumkuma all over his body in order to become as fair as Sri Radha. By seeing this dress, Krishna's friend Subal became very astonished. So there you go. Sometimes Krishna, and fun, he's so enamored by her dress, puts it on. On another occasion, actually, Krishna came home after a rendezvous with Sri Radha wearing her blue sash. This is described by Srila Prabhupada in Nectar Devotion, chapter 45. I think that chapter is called Laughing Ecstasy. So Prabhupada describes, once early in the morning, when Krishna returned home after performing his Ras Leela, Mother Yasoda looked upon Krishna's face and addressed him as thus, "My dear son, why do your eyes look like they've been smeared with some oxides? And why have you dressed yourself with the blue garments of Baladev?" They weren't the blue garments of Baladev, they were Radharani's sash, her blue sash. But she said, "Why have you dressed yourself with the blue garments of Baladev?" When Mother Yasoda was addressing Krishna in this way, Nectar Devotion says, a girlfriend who was nearby began to smile with a puffed nose and squinting eyes. She was laughing because she knew what was actually going on. Now, I also read in Sri Rupa Goswami's Ujjvala Nilamani, chapter 8, that one time Sri Radha came home wearing one of Krishna's sashes. Well, sort of. Rupa Goswami describes that as follows in Ujjvala Nilamani, that once Radharani returned home forgetting that she was wearing Krishna's yellow cloth around her shoulders. And when Radharani's mother-in-law, Jatila, saw this yellow cloth, instead of the customary, bluish cloth that she usually wears, she sensed foul play and angrily stared at her daughter-in-law. At that time, Vishaka Saki, she tried to protect her friend Radharani by speaking the following words to Jatila. "My dear Jatila, at today's festival, the young girls, their hearts fluttering with happiness, playfully doused Radharani with a strong mixture of turmeric and water, which dyed her silken shoulder cloth yellow. That is the reason this cloth is now yellow. O noble Jatila, why do you stare at my friend Radharani from the corner of your crooked eyes?" Now, I want to mention that it's not just Radharani's maidservants who dress Sri Radha in beautiful clothes and ornaments, as we described. But sometimes Mother Yasoda does as well. This is described by Kaviraj Shekhar, a famous Brajbasa poet, in one of his beautiful poems. Now, Kaviraj Shekhar lived in the late 17th century. He was born in the village of Paran in the Burdwan district of West Bengal, and he was an intimate disciple of Raghunandana Goswami, in the line of Lord Nityananda. So I became attracted to his poetry when I read in one of his poems the following. It's a portion of one of his poems. It's actually describing the glories of Lord Chaitanya. And I found this in the Vrindavan Research Institute and looking through his poetry. Just the way he's described Lord Chaitanya just melted my heart. So I thought I'd throw this in from his poetry. Listen. Madhura Madhura Gaur Kishore, Madhura Madhura Nata, Madhura Madhura Shabha Sachara, Madhura Madhura Hata. Sweet, sweet is the youthful Gaur. Sweet, sweet is his dancing. Sweet, sweet are all his companions. Sweet, sweet is his marketplace. Madhura Madhura Mridanga Bhajata, Madhura Madhura Tana, Madhura Rasate Matala Bakata, Gota Madhura Ghana. Sweet, sweet are the sounds of the mridangas. Sweet, sweet are the rhythms. His devotees are wild with the sweet nectar of ecstatic spiritual love. Sweet, sweet is their singing. Madhura Helena, Madhura Dolana, Madhura Madhura Gati, Madhura Madhura Vachana Sundara, Madhura Madhura Bhati. Sweet is his leaning on a companion. Sweet is his swaying to and fro. Sweet, sweet are his emotions. Sweet, sweet are his beautiful words. Sweet, sweet is his effulgent glory. Madhura Adhara Jini Shashidhara, Madhura Madhura Hasha, Arti Priti Chariti Madhura 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 Bhasha. Sweet are his lips that defeat the moon. Sweet, sweet is his laughter. Sweet is his artik, his ecstatic spiritual love and his character. Sweet, sweet is Mahaprabhu's talking. Madhura Yugala Nayana Ratula, Madhura Igite Chaya, Madhura Premera Madhura Badhara, Vachita Shekara Rai. Vachita Shekara Rai. Sweet are his reddish eyes. Sweet are his sidelong glances. But unfortunately, this poet Shekara Rai has not attained his sweet, loving service. Madhur, Madhur, Madhur Bhaje. Isn't that sweet? What a poet. How he captured the sweetness of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, pure nectar. But what I wanted to share with all of you was his description in another poem of Mother Yasoda dressing and ornamenting Sri Radha. This is a long class, but I wish it was longer. Therein he describes Mother Yasoda dressing and ornamenting Sri Radha after Srimati Radharani cooked breakfast and served breakfast to Krishna. We discussed that Leela some years ago. Therein he describes, after cooking and serving Krishna Prasad, Srimati Radharani came out of the kitchen and sat down nearby. And at that point, Mother Yasoda appeared and began to dress and ornament her in a very opulent way. By first retying Radha's hair into a graceful braid. Then she applied fresh vermilion in the part of Radharani's hair, tilak on her forehead, coryllium over her eyelids. Then she replaced Radha's nose ring with her own most precious golden pearl, Yasoda. Then she dressed Sri Radha in her typical beautiful blue sari. It's described its color matched Krishna's complexion, which caused Sri Radha to blush. Meanwhile, one of Mother Yasoda's maidservants delivered a tray of ornaments. It's described that glittered like 1,000 suns. So Mother Yasoda selected a string of diamonds from that tray, and she hung it around Sri Radha's neck. And then, moving behind Sri Radha, Yasoda took Radha's braid in her hands and decorated it with various types of hairpins, including one of gold, one of diamonds, and one of pearls. And others were made of jewels like rubies and emeralds, etc. And while this very intimate exchange was taking place between Sri Radha and Yasoda, many of Radharani's girlfriends, they looked on, the gopis. So then when this was completed, when Yasoda dressing Sri Radha, she stepped back and she said something very wonderful. She said, "Oh, my precious little girl, your form and qualities soothe my heart. I dream of them always. What sins have I committed that I cannot have you as my daughter? You and my son are like the two halves of my life, or the pupils of my two eyes. The king of Braj, my husband, also shares this sentiment, just as we share the sadness that you are not the wife of our dear Krishna." Hare Krishna. Now, at this point I'd like to mention that Sri Radha has dresses for also for specific occasions. How do we know? Well, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in his Gita Vali, verse 5, sometimes Sri Radha dresses herself according to her mood. Dhira dhira bhava patavasa. Dhira dhira bhava patavasa. Meaning she is clothed in the two-part silken garment of both sober and non-sober emotional ecstasies. It's pretty deep. But he indicates here that she dresses sometimes according to a particular mood. Dhira dhira bhava patavasa. An example of special clothes, different clothes for special moods or purposes, it's described are clothes for bathing and clothes for nocturnal or nighttime pastimes. So regarding her bathing clothes, Srila Kavi Karnapura, he writes in Ananda Vrindavan Champu, chapter 12. He gives us some hint here. Upon arriving at the Jamuna, the impatient Brajakumaris immediately threw off their woolen shawls. Covered by thin white cotton bathing outfits, the blissful bodies of the gopis looked more beautiful than a stream of falling snow. So then we get a hint that on special occasions, well, when they bathe, Radha and the gopis, they'll wear these thin white cotton bathing outfits. And in his book, The Color Guide to Radhakund, by one of ISKCON's first Parikrama Pandits, one of the very first ones, like Dinabandhu, this devotee's name was Raja Shekhar Das Brahmachari. He wrote that book, The Color Guide to Radhakund. I read it many years ago, one of the first Parikrama books I read. Therein he relates, because he studied Braj Leela extensively for many years, wonderful devotee. He relates that when Sri Radha and her gopis swim in Shamakund, they first place their clothes carefully on a nearby pilu bush. While getting ready to bathe in Shamakund, they'll place their clothes carefully on a pilu bush, and then they enter the water in those outfits that we described earlier there. Now, as we many times discussed, such plants, pilu bush, even trees, they are fully conscious devotees, pure devotees, nitya siddha, eternally liberated devotees, serving the divine couple in their own unique ways. Variety is the spice of life. It's all Purnamasi's arrangement. So thus the pilu bush that holds the gopis' clothes while they bathe witnessed all of their pastimes in the water, the jalkeli. Now this pilu bush in particular, I discovered, was formerly a Vaishnava Brahmana from Lord Shiva's holy city of Kashi, who executed severe austerities, hoping to ask a boon from the Lord face to face. And pleased with this devotee's resolve, Krishna eventually appeared to him. And the Brahmana then requested that he be allowed to participate in Krishna's pastimes, in his Vrindavan pastimes, and the Lord fulfilled his desire. Therefore, this Brahmana became that pilu bush by the bank of Shamakund and served the gopis by holding their clothes as they bathed. Now, presently, there's a bhajan kutir of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur just beside that pilu bush at Shamakund in Vrindavan. Because it's said that while Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur resided at Radhakund, when he would reside at Radhakund, he would sometimes discuss the divine couple's pastimes with the bush. He would sit there next to the pilu bush and he would discuss the divine couple's pastimes with that pilu bush. So there's a memorial there at that spot in the Shamakund. Wow. So amazing. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur ki. So, let's see. Oh yeah. Finally, regarding Sri Radha's dresses, for nighttime pastimes, we covered the bathing pastimes. So another special occasion is the nighttime pastimes. So in Sri Jiva Goswami's commentary on Ujjvala Nilamani, 574, he writes, sometimes Sri Radhika takes on the role of Abhisharika. And Abhisharika is a Nayika, meaning a heroine, a gopi, who is eager to meet her beloved Krishna, and she decides to meet him by leaving her home at midnight. So this is the description of a Abhisharika, a Nayika, a heroine, who wants to meet Krishna at nighttime in the forest. So Srila Jiva Goswami writes that usually an Abhisharika, she selects the full moon day for her abhishara, which means for her rendezvous. And he says, Tach cha praya shuklam eva bhavati. On such days, Sri Radha's cloth is usually pristine white. Why? Because this allows her, when she's going from home into the forest to meet Krishna on a full moon, because everything's lit up, so by dressing in pristine white, she blends into all the surroundings, so no one can see her going to that meeting. Now, to facilitate that meeting, it's described, Vrindadevi arranges that everything in the forest is also white, including the trees, the leaves, the flowers, the grass, the animals, like that. So I was thinking, what a wonderful arrangement. It's bright out because of the moon, so Radharani's dressed in white and everything's white. So I thought, this is transcendental choreography, isn't it? Transcendental choreography. But then I was thinking, what about the dark night? The dark night when the moon's it's just a sliver, hardly present. It's dark. How would Sri Radha or her friends meet Krishna when he's playing his flute in the Vrindavan forest, calling them to dance with him? So then I found in Padyavali, seek and ye shall find. In Padyavali, verse 194, Rupa Goswami writes, Padi Dehi Neelam. Padi Dehi Neelam, that on a moonless night, when it's dark, Sri Radha wears dark bluish cloth. It confirms Rupa Goswami. How does she's not seen because it's dark, so she dresses. She doesn't wear white, she wears a dark bluish cloth. Padi Dehi Neelam, Rupa Goswami. So many details are there. So also, as you can imagine, on that dark moon night, Vrindadevi, she arranges that the whole forest is bathed in black. The trees, the leaves, the flowers, the animals, the ground, they're all black in color. Again, for the purpose that no one can see Radharani when she's on her way to her secret meeting with Krishna. Now in that regard, this particular pastime, when there's no moon, I found a quote by one Acharya, so beautiful, very short, but eloquence is truth spoken concisely. He writes, of course, Krishna is also dark, like a monsoon cloud, which also ensures that no one can see their meeting. Only their immediate helpers, the manjaris and the sakis, can witness their meeting. So the fact that Krishna is also bluish-black like a monsoon cloud means no one can see their meeting except their most intimate servants, the manjaris and the sakis. Hare Krishna. Wow, so much nectar. So I would like to actually end today with a beautiful poem, again by our poet Kalyan Rai. It reveals that although Sri Radha is so beautiful in all the various clothes and ornaments that we discussed today, she's not dependent on those decorations for her beauty, for she herself is a reservoir of all beauty. So here's this poem by this wonderful devotee. We'll finish with this. He writes, O Radhe, your beauty is beyond comparison. Your eyes do not need coryllium to be black. Your skin does not need oils to be soft. And your lips do not need pan or bitterleaf to be red. Your teeth are bright without polishing, And you are so gorgeous, even without any ornamentation. You do not need any perfume to be fragrant. And you know the fine arts of love without having to study the scriptures of love. And he concludes, you are the very breath of my Lord. You are the very breath of my Lord, the one who lifts Shri Giriraj mountain. Thank you to that poet. Thank you to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you to all the various acharyas who we quoted today, the poets, for giving us, even just aspiring devotees, we're aspiring devotees, some stimulus to one day become the eternal servants of Radha Shyam or Krishna Balarama. However, in the beautiful world of Goloka, where every step is a dance, every word is a song, and there's a festival every day. And Srila Prabhupada is taking us there. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back next Friday with another talk on stimulus for ecstatic love. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radharani ki, Mayapur Dham ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yagya ki, Nitai Go Pemanandi, Jai Jai Sri Sri Radhe Shyam Jai Prabhupada Hare Krishna. See you soon.